This is not history to be retold. This is the survival code of Vietnamese strategy that many strategic minds around the world are trying to decode. For the next 30 years, a single silk thread is easily broken, but a million silk threads, braided together, will become a chain that can strangle any monster. Vietnamese military strategy was not written by lonely geniuses. It was written by the heartbeat of millions of hearts, beating at the same frequency. Sometimes the strongest strategy of a nation is to say nothing at all. Episode 26. Try asking yourself a question. Are you trying to shine alone, in solitude, or are you standing in the strength of an ideal greater than yourself? Perhaps your smile is not because you are the best, but because behind you, there are tens of thousands of hands holding you up. Now, try opening your phone. The contact list is full. Messages flowing all day. Social media is constantly noisy. Everyone has to speak. Everyone has to raise their voice. Everyone is afraid of being forgotten. We are living in an era that fears silence. But in the strategy of Die Viet, silence is a fortress. When the invaders march in, what do they expect? A battle drum, a shout of a charge. So they know where their opponent is. But what do they receive? Villages with no people. Roads with no footprints. A vast silence. This silence is not emptiness. It is energy being compressed. When you speak, you reveal yourself. But when you are silent, the enemy will imagine for themselves. And human imagination always creates monsters more terrifying than the truth. The invaders begin to panic. Where are they? What are they preparing? Why are they not afraid? Sometimes, the greatest strength of a nation is to say nothing at all. Try looking at yourself again. Are you screaming for the world to recognize you? Or do you have enough inner strength to be silent and let the results speak? Many people lose, not because they are weak, but because they talk too much. Before taking action, they accidentally let their opponent read the entire source code of their soul. The strategy of Die Viet is sometimes very simple. No need to speak. No need to prove. Just disappear from sight and appear when the opponent is exhausted. When a nation cannot be controlled by violence, the empire will crumble from solitude. Episode 27. Imagine this scene. You walk into a city. The houses are still there. The streets are still there. But there is no one. The kitchens are cold. The markets are empty. A ghost city. You are lying next to someone. But the silence between the two of you. Is it peace? Or is it an abyss? There are silences that heal. But there are also silences that kill a relationship. Let us return to history. When the invaders entered Thang Long, what did they prepare for? A bloody battle. A city fighting back. But what did they encounter? Streets with no people. Houses with no fire. A colossal silence. This silence is not weakness. It is a strategic blow. Because every invading empire needs three things: people to rule, markets to collect taxes, land to exploit. But when there is no longer anyone there, all occupation plans collapse instantly. The invaders suddenly become lonely souls, wandering lost in a foreign dream. The silence of Die Viet turned the invaders into people who no longer knew who they were fighting. There was only one sound at that time: the rustling of dry leaves under the enemy's feet. A very small sound, but in that empty space, it echoed like a judgment. Now, try looking at yourself. Are you building power through imposition? Or do you know how to kindle the fire in the hearts of others? Are you building a family where silence is a place where everyone hides from each other? Or is it a place where everyone understands one another, without needing to say anything? A system that only lives on the noise of praise will collapse the moment the spotlights go out. Try asking yourself one last question. Are you smiling because you have an audience? Or because you are self-contained enough in your own stillness? Why a small community, but with a unified belief? A community connected by faith understands each other without needing to speak. Episode 28. How can they defeat a giant empire that is cracking from within? Try asking yourself a question. Do you have a true best friend? Or only people who always nod at you like soulless echoes? In the silent strategy of Die Viet, there is a power that the invaders could never understand. An underground connection. No slogans. No commands. Only an understanding that requires no words. When a village decides to leave, there are no meetings. No documents. Only a look. A nod. And the entire village understood. That was not fear. That was absolute trust. A faith accumulated through many generations. But in the invaders' camp, everything was different. There, silence often went hand in hand with suspicion. Why did that general not speak? Why is that unit silent? Are there spies? Is someone betraying us? The silence of Die Viet began to strike their minds. No need for an arrow. No need for a battle. Only panic. And when an army begins to doubt itself, it has already lost half the war. Modern society tells you, you must be connected 24/7. But most of those connections are just noise. You may have thousands of acquaintances. But how many people do you have? With whom, when sitting together, in silence, you still feel understood? In the next 30 years, when the world is suffocated by data and noise, silence will become power. The final question for you. Are you a part of the noise? Or are you building a fortress of silence that no one can penetrate? In the next episode, silence will no longer be a defense. It will become a psychological storm, sweeping away the last hope of the invader. Do you dare to sacrifice a bit of personal glory to join a collective and touch the immortality of a legacy? Have you ever fallen into a situation like this? A person suddenly becomes completely silent. No reason. No explanation. No trace. That feeling is not freedom. It is a form of psychological torture. The art of starving perception. Sometimes victory does not come from knowing more than the opponent, but from making the opponent have nothing left to know. Episode 29. In the strategy of Die Viet, silence is not just for retreating. It is an invisible strike. We do not only burn all the food to make the enemy hungry, we also make them starve for data. A military brain is trained to analyze troop numbers, positions, directions of movement. But when the Vietnamese disappear into silence, that entire analytical system collapses. The invader is like a spinning radar in an empty sky. No signal, no target, only nothingness. That silence is like the surface of a lake, without a ripple. When the invaders look into it, they only see themselves, their anxiety, their anger, and their displacement. When there is no longer anyone to fight, the invader begins to fight their own fear. Try looking back at modern life. News, notifications, social media. Everything is constantly noisy. So many people fill their lives with information, not because they need to know, but because they are afraid to face loneliness. But a truly strong system is not the one that knows the most. It is the system that knows how to disconnect from the noise. To retain wisdom, try asking yourself a question. Are you smiling Because you are always updated on everything? Or because you are brave enough not to need to know worthless things? In the final episode, we will see the most terrifying thing. When silence is no longer a tactic, it becomes an invisible weight, pressing down on the will of the invader until they collapse on their own. When the storm arrives, will you take shelter alone? Or will you, along with others, weave into a net to protect one another? The end of Fake Echoes. Episode 30. Before ending the chapter, The Fortress of Silence. Try doing one simple thing. Turn off all electronic devices. Phone, computer, everything. And listen to the sound of your own heart. The invaders of the past died in the silence of the sacred forests and toxic waters. Their cries for help only received a cold echo from the cliffs. They came with resounding brass trumpets, but they departed in the stillness of ashes. The silence of Die Viet is a declaration. Eternal values do not need to scream to exist. They are like underground currents, flowing silently beneath the earth, yet nourishing an entire nation. Before the storm of counterattack explodes, there is a very special sound. Not the sound of drums, not the sound of cheering, only the slow breath of the soldiers ambushing in the darkness. That is the moment when strength is accumulated in absolute stillness. In the next 30 years, when the world is full of virtual assistants, always speaking words that have been programmed, humans will crave something very rare: true silence. Try looking back at your life. Are you living amidst empty promises? Social smiles? Conversations that do not touch the heart? Or do you have a place within yourself, a fortress of silence, to protect the most precious things? Are you smiling because you are happy in the way the world taught you? Or because you have just found another strength, the power of stillness, a place where no algorithm can penetrate, where no system can control? The Vietnamese won, not just with weapons. They won because they mastered silence. And you? Are you brave enough to be silent long enough to hear yourself? The empire of noise will collapse in its own echo. Nations that know how to be silent will outlast history.